Shalom and welcome to Biblical Faith with Sam Peak. We invite you to join us as Sam brings a study in the Torah from the Jewish sages. And now our speaker, Sam Peak.
Shalom Aleichem. Hopefully we'll have a nice lesson tonight. Okay. We're studying Pirkei Avot. If I can get control of the class. We're studying Pirkei Avot. Based on a Pirkei Avot, this wonderful part of the Mishnah, and the chapters, if you will, of the fathers, or it's also called the ethics of the fathers, or the wisdom of the fathers, things like this. But we're studying based on the commentary, the explanations of Pirkei Avot of the Maharal of Prague, Rabbi Judah Loew of Prague, in this wonderful book that was put together for us by Rabbi Tuvia Basser. Which I think is published by Art Scroll. Yes. Okay. Now we've got all that out of the way. Let's pick up where we left off. Where we left off the last time, we were about to begin and look briefly at Mishnah number 13 of chapter 2 of Pirkei Avot. It's on page 104 if you have the book. Okay. Now remember, the Mishnayot of 10 through 14. The Ramchal is going to treat that as a whole package in a minute, okay? Because it's this entire conversation from Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai, all right? He said to them, Mishnah 13, he said to them, Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai said to these 5 disciples, these 5 students, other rabbis actually, go out and discern, he says, which is the good path to which a man should cling, should be glued to. And Rabbi Eliezer says, a good eye, ayin tova. And Rabbi Yehoshua says, a good friend, okay, chaver tov. Rabbi Yosei says, a good neighbor, shachen tov. Rabbi Shimon says, one who considers the outcome of a deed, or actually one, or not actually, but that's a good translation. But we can also say, to understand it, one who can see the consequences, one who will see what will happen. If you do this, then you can see what's going to happen down the road, okay? That's what he says. And then Rabbi Elazar says, Lev Tov, a good heart. Okay. And he, Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai, said to them, I prefer the words of Elazar ben Arach to your words, because all of your words are included in his words. In other words, Lev Tov, a good heart, it includes all of those other 4 things, the good eye, the good friend, the good neighbor, and being able to discern the outcome of a deed. All right? Let's go back and look at the Maharal's preliminary commentary on it. All right? And then we'll eventually get to where he treats the whole thing as a package. So, Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai says to them, go out and discern. And his commentary says, as the Rav or the Torah mentor, Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai should have taught his students what the qualities are that are good, rather than to ask for their opinion. All right. Some things, though Maharal is telling us, have to be learned by observation. And it was precisely, he says, in his role as a mentor or as the Torah teacher, that Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai sent out his students to observe people and to discern from them what is the best of all good qualities. And it actually has to do, it's a teaching method, if you will, of Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai, of things. It's an assignment. It's like homework, okay? All right. So, we go on. The first thing he picks up or asks is, which is the good path to which a man should be glued, to which a human being should cling to? A person, he says, is considered as clinging to a positive personality trait only when that trait has become entirely natural. In other words, only when you don't even have to work at it anymore. It's just natural to you. That's what it means. We acquire new behavior, he says, only by practicing it until it has been ingrained as second nature. Now, in the beginning, it might have been something totally foreign to you. And this is the whole idea. This is also the idea, one of the ideas what's behind the mitzvot. I mean, to do them until they become absolutely second nature to you, and you wouldn't have any other thought not to do them. Okay? All right. A way of life, he says, is considered good when it fulfills the purpose for which we were created. And we could go into that a whole lot, all right? Because what is the purpose for which we were created? Well, to be truthful with you, it's actually to go to Rabbi Yehuda Lev Ashlag, the Baal HaSulam, and the Ramchal, and others of the great minds of the sages. They tell us very clearly God's purpose in creating the universe, number one, is to share His goodness with others. So there has to be this will to give, which is Him, and a will to receive, which is us. But we have been corrupted a little bit, where it's turned into a will to receive for ourselves alone, something that's entirely self-centered. So how can we receive His good? And what, by the way, what's the greatest good? The greatest good, if you remember what the Ramchal tells us, because Hashem is totally perfect, to give us a secondary or a lesser good than the best good is not going to work at all. So what is the very best good? Well, it is Him Himself. He is good. And He is what real goodness actually is. So it's really the goodness that He gives to us is this relationship. That's the goodness that He has in mind for us, where He shares Himself with us in this beautiful level of closeness with Him. All right. So how is that done? Well, in order to do it correctly, again to Rabbi Ashlag, we must transform to the Torah and the mitzvot and prayer, all right, through in faith, all of these things that He gives us. We have to transform that will to receive for ourselves alone from being self-centered, a totally self-centered person, into a will to receive from Him, whatever goodness He gives to us, and everything He gives to us is good, in order to benefit others, okay, and in order to please Him. That's the key. That's the absolute key. And just to interject it again, because we absolutely cannot hear it enough, every problem, every trouble, every machloket, every controversy, every speed bump in the road of life, all comes not from God, and not from some evil entity running around out there that has power. It comes from our will to receive for ourselves alone. That's where it comes from. Okay. All right. Back to the Maharal. The Maharal is going to teach us the same kind of stuff, but he does it in his way. Okay? Goodness, the Maharal says, is cultivated in several areas of life, such as our personal growth through the Torah, or our relationship with God through prayer. These Mishnayot, meaning from 10 to 14, discuss goodness in our relationship with our fellow man. We seek to maximize opportunities for goodness in this context, that is synonymous with being worthy of our very existence. All right. The point he is trying to make is the whole idea of what we were talking about before, of benefiting others. You know how to know a person really loves God. If a person really loves God, he also loves other people. That's the whole point.
Right.
Yeah. If a person really doesn't love other people and really doesn't care about other people and really has no, they may be in some ivory tower somewhere alone with God, and they think they have a beautiful relationship with Him, but they don't demonstrate that. It doesn't come out in their actions. And they may even say beautiful words, but if it doesn't come out in their actions, it honestly means nothing. Everything else can just be a mask. Okay. All right, let's get off of that, because I can get very preachy in that area, and we can be there for a long time. And this is tending to turn me on to really get after, and fix the entire universe while I'm at it.
Yeah.
So, but what they're saying is absolutely correct. Okay. Rabbi Eliezer says, Ayin Tova, a good eye. What does that mean? What does that actually mean? It's a Hebrew idiom, okay? A good eye, Ayin Tova, he says, is the quality of being pleased with another's good fortune. Now, what that really means is that you have a generous heart. You have a generous spirit. You're a generous person. It not only means being, in other words, you know, say the wonderful producer of these shows, Jason, tomorrow won the lottery and he won $55 million, and so I'm sitting over there dirt poor and thinking to myself, you know, he's not going to share it with anybody, and then the more I look at it, the more I begin to say, what's so special about him? Why did he get it and I get nothing? What's going on here? That's an ayin ra'ah, which we're going to see in just a minute. That's a stingy person. See, a stingy person, or a generous person is not just someone who, if they have the money and they see that you're in need, or if they have something and they see you're in need, that they give it to you. But it also means that even in your heart, even in your very inner essence, you can look at somebody else whom God is blessing unbelievable, and where you're not in such a good circumstance, and you can be happy for them. You can be absolutely wonderfully happy for them with no hint of jealousy or irritation or any of that. Envy, or the ayin ra'ah, the stingy eye. Okay? So, Rabbi Eliezer proposes that this quality cultivates goodness most effectively because there are a lot of opportunities for us to practice it. Okay? And it takes no time at all to be happy for another's good fortune. It doesn't even take your time. You just be happy for their good fortune. Looking around, he says, we can always find evidence of wealth or social position or success of other people. Rabbi Eliezer's colleagues felt that other personality traits offer even better opportunities to cultivate goodness. Remember, we're talking about the good path that a man should cling to. The difference of opinion as to which trait is best revolves around the balance of quantity and quality. This is again from the Maharal. For example, Rabbi Eliezer suggests that a kindly view of people's good fortune is best because the opportunity to make use of that trait is always available. You can do this all the time, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. In contrast, Rabbi Yehoshua favors the trait of being a good friend. He says a good friend is on a higher level because it exercises a higher level of goodness. In other words, and we'll understand that in a minute, but it's with fewer opportunities to practice it. Okay? Okay. Let's go on. Rabbi Yehoshua says, Chaver Tov, a good friend. A good friend, the Maharal tells us, is one who gives his friend advice. Giving advice, he says, is only one example of being a good friend. But the example was carefully chosen to illustrate a degree of goodness which takes more effort and occurs less frequency than ayin tovah, just a good eye, and which is yet easier to practice than the opinions of lending and giving that follow later on down the line. We haven't got to the hard stuff yet. Okay? Rabbi Yehoshua considers this practice superior to having a good eye because it engages more of our faculties. The quality of a good eye develops only the faculty of observation, whereas giving good advice also exercises speech. All right? Now stop right there for just a minute, because Rabbi Basler tells us in a note, he says, the Kabbalistic explanation that will be presented later when we look at all the Mishnayot together, the Maharal does a very good Kabbalistic explanation of it, and it will associate all of these opinions with different parts of the soul. All right? The Maharal is actually preparing us for that insight by associating each of these opinions with a particular physical faculty, such as sight, okay, or speech, because those faculties are themselves related to different parts of your soul. All right? So the Maharal is beginning to prepare the ground for the big banger that he's going to give us in just a little bit. Okay. All right. So giving good advice also exercises speech. Since that entails speaking, entails concentration and effort. Not to argue with the Maharal, but one of the problems in the world today is people speak a lot without any concentration. Okay, but here we're talking about Torah people. All right, this is who the sages are talking about. This is who the Maharal is talking about. So that entails concentration and effort. It is a more substantial quality than just the good eye, which is simply a generous attitude or a benign attitude. A good friend is pleased with his friend's good fortune, and it is implicit that being a good friend also possesses the compassion that a good eye entails. Okay? In fact, we're going to see that about each and every one of these. Rabbi Eliezer always starts with one point, and then by the time it ends up with Rabbi Elazar at the end, we're going to see that step by step, this point includes the ones before it. And that one, and so the Rabbi Elazar at the end, the point that he is making includes everything that has been said. It's not that, and that's the way to look at this. We'll even see this in a minute. But the way to look at this is, which one of these rabbis is right? What's going on here? Actually, every one of them is right. Every one of them are correct. Okay? Because the final answer includes all of them. So everything that we're studying, we literally would do well to develop it, to develop what they're telling us. Okay. We come to Rabbi Yosei. Rabbi Yosei, Omer, Shachen Tov, a good neighbor. All right? Being a good neighbor is even better than being a good friend, because friendship can be maintained with mere speech, but good neighbors are also good to each other in deeds. They lend things to each other, and they actively help one another if you have a good neighbor, or if you are a good neighbor to someone, and they're a good neighbor back to you. And then good neighbors also fulfill the other good practices of giving helpful advice and sharing in the joy of each other's successes. Do you see how now we come to a good neighbor, and a good neighbor includes the qualities of a good friend, and it also includes the qualities of a good eye. But now we come to Rabbi Shimon. And Rabbi Shimon always, it seems that he says things that are aren't actually connected to the progression of things, but they are. Okay? So Rabbi Shimon Omer, Haroe et hanulad. He sees what will be born. Okay? Literally, that's what it says. What it means is he sees one who considers the outcome of a deed. In other words, a person who can see what will be the end result of something. By the expression one who considers the outcome of a deed, Rabbi Shimon is actually recommending to us, the Maharal tells us, true gemilat chasadim, giving of loving kindness, deeds of loving kindness, doing loving kindness. Okay? We can even translate that rescuing others through loving kindness. Acts of kindness such as lending money or other substantial kindness. One who sees consequences will not be reluctant to do kindness to others, as it says. And this is from Kohelet 11:1, okay, from Ecclesiastes chapter 11, verse 1. Cast your bread upon the water, for you will find it after many days. That person knows that you don't really suffer loss by doing kindness for others. But he's going to say, one who considers the outcome of a deed is aware that today's beneficiary, the person you help today, may be tomorrow's benefactor. They may have to help you in the future. And that recognition, he says, even though this is coming from your will to receive, all right, that recognition enables one to deal kindly with others. And by the way, all of these things are step-by-step processes too. Rabbi Shimon considers this a better quality than being a good neighbor, because the good that neighbors do for each other, such as lending things on a short-term basis, is actually easier to do. You always know you can go back over there and get it back. Understand? The recipient benefits, but the object is promptly returned to the lender, and he is actually not deprived of its use. So this is what he's saying. Now we go to Rabbi Elazar. Rabbi Elazar is going to take it to really the highest level, which is going to include everything else, and he really is going to twist it for us to show how we need to correct that self-centeredness that we have, the will to receive for ourselves alone. So Rabbi Elazar Omer, Lev Tov, a good heart. The Maharal comes and says a good heart means performing gemilut chasadim, acts of kindnesses, selflessly, without regard to the favor that might or might not be returned, without any regard for it. So a good heart includes and surpasses, even goes beyond all of the other good qualities. Rabbi Elazar considers the selfless quality of a good heart to be superior to the pragmatic quality of doing a kindness that could be reciprocated. Indeed, some people might even refrain from doing a kindness because the recipient, they know they will not be able to reciprocate when they are in need of his help. Although it is harder to perform a kindness that may not come back to you, that may not be reciprocated, a person who has a good heart will accept the possible loss, and he will provide help to whomever may need it. That's a total rectification. And all of these other things that were mentioned, that rectification includes all of them, but I'm going to tell you this too. All of those other things are steps. It's a guide for us. It's not just for nothing that all of this is in the Mishnah. It's a total guide for us. Now, the Maharal is not saying this, but I'm saying it. It's a total guide for us on steps that we can take. Begin to develop a good eye, a generous spirit toward other people, where you're not envious of other people's things or other people's money or other people's stuff and say, oh, I wish I had that or I wish I had this. Move it to the quality of what it means to be a good friend. Move that to the quality of what it means to be a good neighbor. Move that to where your real spiritual side of your soul now is in charge, and you can see the outcomes of deeds, of consequences of things. But even in spite of that, move it on to a good heart, where sometimes you will do things for others in spite of the fact that you can see the consequence or you can see the outcome of the deed that you might or might not get paid back, that it might not ever come back to you. You understand what I'm trying to say? It really is a pattern for us to develop ourselves. That's what these 5 rabbis are laying down for us. Now, Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai, actually what he is saying when he says, I prefer the words of Elazar ben Arak to your words because your words are included in his words, he's recognizing that that's the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is to come to this place where we have lev tov, where we have a good heart. That's the ultimate goal, because that, just like he says, that includes everything. Okay. Mishnah number 14. Who could know we would be on Mishnah number 14 within 30 minutes of the show? It's unbelievable. Mishnah number...
Nobody asked questions.
Well, I know. Nobody, Tony... Yeah, there you go. Tony's not asking questions. That's why we're on Mishnah number 14. Let's read it quickly. We won't finish Mishnah number 14, but let's read it. So he said to them, Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai said to them again, go out and discern. I've asked you for the good path. Now what is the evil path from which a man should distance himself, which he should have nothing to do with? Rabbi Eliezer says, an evil eye. Rabbi Yehoshua says, a wicked friend. Rabbi Yosei says, a wicked neighbor. Rabbi Shimon says, one who borrows and does not repay. Because one who borrows from man is like one who borrows from the omnipresent one. As it is said, the wicked one borrows and does not repay, but the righteous one is gracious and gives. The righteous one there being God, all right? The tzaddik, actually. In that case, the tzaddik here is God and those people who are attached to him. Is gracious and gives. And this comes from Psalm 37, 37th Psalm, verse 21. That's a quote from there. Rabbi Elazar says, a wicked heart. Okay? And Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai said to them, again, I prefer the words of Elazar ben Arak to your words, for your words are included in his words. So now we have the negative side of what they just said, and there are things that we need to learn from it. So the Maharal immediately picks up the commentary at the beginning, and he reminds us, as he did before, that we haven't gotten a hold of a positive trait, okay, until it's second nature to us. All right? And you know what that means sometimes is that when you really get a hold of it, you think you've always had it, even though maybe you didn't. It really is that much yours, and you don't even realize that you've actually even changed. Okay. He says a person has distanced himself from a negative trait only if it has been entirely eradicated. then it's away, then it's dead, then it's gone. As long as we practice that negative behavior or anything similar to it, even occasionally, it is still a part of us. So, you might say, well, in this area of my life, I've improved so much, I only did it one time last year. Of course, it was just a couple of days ago that I did it. But, so it's still a part of you, okay? Or I only did it 6 times, or I only did it 7 times. That's good. Pat yourself on the back that if you were doing it 20 times a day, pat yourself on the back that you only did it 1 time last year. But know that it's still a part of you until you do it no times ever. Okay. So Rabbi Eliezer says, what should you get away from? Run away from it? An evil eye, ayin ra'ah. He says, be very careful not to view other people's good fortune begrudgingly. For the risk of malevolence is within the glance of an eye. And this is what is known as the evil eye. That's why, as Jews, we have all kinds of protections, against the evil eye. A chamsa, even a mezuzah on a house in some ways is like this. You'll see an eye that some of us wear around our neck from time to time, all of those things. Because the risk of malevolence is within the glance of an eye. This evil personality trait brings a person to what? Jealousy, and then hatred, and countless other transgressions. This is so absolutely true. Now, let me very quickly give you my take on the idea of an amulet, okay? Whether it's a hamsa or whether it's an eye or other different kinds of protections that we have about the evil eye. It's always something that a person who looks at you can see, okay? Why is that? Personally, I think, and this is only true for Torah people. Now, an amulet may protect you in other ways from people who are not Torah people, okay? But from Torah people, it's an immediate reminder. If I look at you, Tony, and I see you have a hamsa around your neck, or it's on your clothes, or it's on your keychain, like right here. Well, for instance, like right here, that's what this is. It's a hamsa. This is a protection from the evil eye. So if I see it, and I'm a Torah person, it's an immediate reminder to me not to look at you begrudgingly for what you have. That you drive a nice car, and I don't. Or even maybe I do, but I still begrudge the fact that you do. Okay? Because this is an absolutely entire thing that so infects you that you can't be happy at any point, at any time. This is what real stinginess is. And this is what really being dead inside really is. Very, very much so. So that's the idea. If I see it, it reminds me not to do that. Because look, so for instance, we have a saying in Hebrew and in Jewish life. So let's say I get off the bus and I trip and fall and skin my knee. And somebody will say to me, well, I wonder who is looking at you with an evil eye. Because those are the kind of things that actually happen because of someone else's, literally the spiritual force they release, the negative spiritual force. This is how it can affect you. That they release on you when they look at you with a spirit of stinginess, with a spirit of I want what you have, or you don't deserve what you have. That's the whole idea. Oh, absolutely. So that's the idea. So if you spill something, my friend Smotty always says this. If we're all eating together and I spill something on my shirt, she'll say, well, I wonder who's looking at you today. Because this is the idea. Or I wonder who wants what you have today. That's the whole idea. It really does. Have we not learned this lesson from the Ramchal, from Rabbi Moshe Chaim Luzzatto, that everything we think, everything we say, everything we do, it affects every universe, and it releases a spiritual force, either positive or negative, that is then again manifested in this world. It has a physical manifestation in this physical world. Everything. Okay, I think we're out of time. I have a feeling we're out of time. Jason says yes. So I'll just tell you, we'll pick right back up where we left off in Pirkei Avot the next time. Okay? So Shalom Alachem. Shalom Uvracha. Peace and a blessing to you.
Thank you for joining us in our study. If you enjoyed this study and are interested in learning more from the Torah and the sages of Israel, then check us out on the internet at www.bfm101.com, or you may contact us toll-free at 1-800-639-0169. Our mailing address is Biblical Faith, P.O. Box 2, Abilene, Texas 79604. Until next time, we wish you shalom uvrakah, peace and a blessing.